So on the left-hand side, you'll see Open Dental. On the right-hand side, you will see Flex. You don't have to have both of these open at the same time. I'm just doing this for the purposes of this video so that you can see how the two work together and how the integration between Flex and Open Dental functions. So when you log into Flex, you're immediately going to see your schedule for the day. This pulls over in real time. There's no active list or anything like that you have to pull in. When you add in a new patient into Open Dental, they'll automatically show up here in Flex. You can always change the day up at the top as well to cycle through different days of the week. Or you can select the operatory if you wanted to filter this down, if you had a large schedule, to see the patients that are specific to that op. Otherwise, you can click all. It will show all of your appointments chronologically. If you ever wanted a general refresher or an overview of what some of the buttons and the features do on this specific page, right up here at the top, you will see this Launch Tutorial button. That will walk you through each of these different elements that you'll see on the home screen here, just so that you have some background on exactly what those are doing. So the way we can pull up a specific patient, you can either search for them up here in the search bar, and that will pull any patient that you have in Open Dental. They don't necessarily have to be on the schedule, or we can just click on an appointment here. And when we do that, it will take us to a landing page for this specific patient. So the picture that you see here matches up to the one that you have in Open Dental for the patient. If you wanted to take a new photo of that patient, simply tap the Take Photo button, and then you can select patient or something else. This feature will work on any mobile device, so any cell phone, any tablet. If you're taking a picture of the patient, that will go back into Open Dental as the patient picture. If you're taking a picture of something else, like an insurance ID, a document, an implant, that will go into the Images module, whichever folder you want that to go to. So after you're done taking that photo, it will ask you which folder that image belongs in, and that's where it'll place it. So from here, we can access a lot of different functions. We're going to start up here with Forms, where it's actually flashing at us with an exclamation point right now. If we back up, on the appointment itself, you'll see this little file icon that says Forms Needed. That's letting us know that Mike here is missing something. So if we tap on Forms, it lets us know that a health history update is due for this patient. That's primarily driven by this health history update field right here. If you were a brand new patient, hadn't completed new patient forms yet, we would have new patient forms highlighted instead. If you know this patient has recently completed a health history update, let's say they did it on paper or in a different system, you can always throw in a date here that was completed, and it will quiet down for whatever period of time you have specified from that date. By default, it's 1 year, but you can set that schedule to whatever you wanted. If you want it to be 6 months or 24 months or whatever works best for your practice. And in a little bit, I'll show you where we can actually access those settings to do that. Next to each of our different forms that are available to us in this list, you'll see this little paper airplane. That icon, if you select it, will ask if you want to text or email that to a patient. With our new patient forms, this can actually be completely automated, so that anytime you create a new patient in Open Dental, we can automatically email them with a link to fill these forms out. You can also do that manually here. If you send it manually before that automated process can run, it does see that it was already sent to that patient. It won't send another copy, just to keep the annoyance level to a minimum with patients. Really simple. All you have to do is select which delivery method. So if you wanted to text this to the patient, we can tap text. It will default to whatever template you have set here. If you ever wanted to modify this on a permanent basis, we can click the little pencil icon here and then change our template. If you're happy with what this says, and you can always change this on a per patient basis, simply tap send, and it'll go right out to our patient. If you preferred to have them complete this on a tablet in your practice, let's say you guys had an iPad or an Android tablet, if we tap Forms right up here, we can just click on New Patient Forms here. And when we do this, it will, at this point, we can hand our tablet over to the patient, but it's going to pre-fill in information for us that we already have on file in Open Dental for this patient. So things like their name, their address, their phone number, all of that will be pre-selected just to make this a little bit simpler and easier for our patient. You will notice that there was no option for pediatric forms. We'll automatically switch this over when we see that the patient is a child versus the patient being an adult. And we do that based on the date of birth. A couple of important things to call out on this page in particular. Is it okay if we text you appointment reminders? And is it okay if we email you appointment reminders? So those will show up if the patient has an email or if the patient has a mobile phone, respectively. And if they select no to this question, what ends up happening is when the form is submitted, we will update the text OK field in OpenDental to correspond to whether or not texting that patient is acceptable to them. And then for emails, we add in an additional field here in OpenDental called Email OK. And that can also be set to yes or no. We give them the option on every email and every text message that's sent out that they can opt out of those if they ever wanted to. If you guys ever go in here and set that to no, we will disable either emails or texts or whatever you ended up selecting for that patient. You can still send them manually to them. We don't stop you from ever manually sending out a text message, but it would stop any sort of automated reminders from going to them. The medications and the conditions and the allergies that are presented to the patient here are customizable. So in our next training video where we go over the settings, I'll show you exactly where you can dive in and edit and modify these. Just real briefly, with things like medications, if the patient selects that they are taking a medication, we'll ask them, well, what category of medication are you taking? Is it a pain med? Is it an antidepressant, diabetes, allergy? So if they say, I am taking a pain medication, we're going to show them pain medications that you have set for your office. Ultimately, you can have whatever you wanted in this list. You don't have to include every medication that you have in OpenDental. We always give them the option of selecting other and then typing in a medication here. We do phonetic matching on that, so even if they misspell the medication just a bit, we can still typically match it up to the correct medication. If they put one in there that is totally unrecognizable, I'll show you what that ends up looking like when that form comes through. Allergies, same idea here. If we select allergies, we'll present allergies that you have set in Flex for that specific patient. Again, always have the option of selecting other here. Go ahead and sign down here. One thing to keep in mind, and this will be shown in the next video as well, if you ever wanted to add in additional questions on here, if you felt something was missing, you can add in any sort of questions that you wanted into the beginning or the end of any of these sections, just so that you can make sure to have those questions on here and customize it to your specific practice. This do you like your smile question, completely optional. I'll show you in your settings where you can turn that on or off based on your preferences. The dental insurance section. If the patient says no, we just move on at this point. We don't need to get into the nitty-gritty details if they just don't have insurance. If they say yes, by default, we will ask, did you already provide that insurance information to us? And the reason we do that is a lot of times on that initial phone call with the patient, we are asking for that insurance information. So if they say yes, we just need them to sign for whatever insurance policy you have set on your forms. If the patient says no, then we will ask them, well, are you the subscriber? If they are, then we just need that insurance information because we already have the patient's information from that very first page. If they say no to that question, then we need to get that subscriber information from them. The office policy that shows up here is also customizable. You can have up to 4 different policies on your new patient forms. Each one you have full control over. You can also choose whether or not a signature is required and whether or not that same policy should show up on a health history update. So if you're regularly updating your office policy and every time they're filling out a health history update you want them to sign another copy, you can do that. And then at the very end of the form here, it will ask, are there any additional family members to add? If they select a yes to that question, it's actually going to start the form back over. but it will pre-fill in a lot of the questions that be consistent for another family member. So if a mom is bringing in her 3 kids, we'll pre-fill in all of her contact information, how she heard about you guys, any insurance information, just so that she isn't repeating that multiple times. I'll go ahead and select no for the time being and submit that. Once that is submitted, it will let the patient know that that form has been received. If they're doing this on your tablet, they can hand it back at this point. And what ends up happening in Open Dental, you will receive an alert letting you know that that form came through and was matched up to a current patient. So in the family module, all of their contact information will pull in here. So name, address, phone number, email, that sort of thing. If we go to the patient's chart, any medications, conditions, or allergies that were selected on that form will pull in. And one thing I mentioned was if the patient selects other for a medication, and like I was saying, if we can match it up, we will. If we can't, we will pull it in as this other and then add in whatever they typed into that field as a note on that specific medication so that you still have visibility into that. You can add that as a medication into Open Dental if you choose to, but we don't force that upon you. And then if we scroll down and look at the medical summary and then the service notes here, we will pull in any of that medical and dental history as well as any custom questions that are added onto that form. Those custom questions will pull into the service notes down here. And then if you wanted to see the actual form that was completed, if we go to our images module, and I have these going to patient information right now. Ultimately, you can direct these forms to go into whichever folder you wanted them to. And there's our PDF copy. You can also review that same form from Flex by pulling up your patient and then selecting patient paperwork right here on the left-hand side. This will show all the different PDFs that we have in Open Dental. You would just have to click on that top one and we'll see that identical PDF here. For things like your health history update, these can also be texted or emailed to the patient. What's really neat about these, even if you are texting it to the patient's cell phone, once they pull that up, it will be pre-filled with their medications, their conditions, their allergies, their contact information. I'll go ahead and pull that up so that you can see what these look like. We'll start off with their contact information, just so that they can update that if there's been a change. And you'll notice some of the conditions are pre-selected here. Medications are pre-selected. So if our patient was no longer taking aspirin or ibuprofen, you can uncheck those, or the patient can uncheck those. And here's our office policy again. I have it set up so that it shows up every time a health history update is completed. Again, for you, completely optional. And then that form will be sent right into Open Dental for us. So if we go to the patient's chart now and open up the medications here, go to aspirin, we will see that a date stop has been set on that particular medication. We never actually remove any sort of medications from Open Dental, just so that you have that history. You know, if the patient was ever taking bisphosphonates or something like that where you needed to see that sort of information, we retain that, but we will note that the patient is no longer taking that medication. You'll notice that I'm logged out right now. Anytime you open up a form inside of Flex, it's presumed that you are doing that on some sort of tablet and handing it to the patient. And that way the patient can't go back in and access any other patient information. It keeps everything secure for you. Which, speaking of tablets, if you wanted the easy way to open up Flex on your tablet, right up here at the top you'll see this Create Tablet QR code, this little icon right here. If you tap that, it will open up a QR code that you can scan with your tablet. If you just point the camera at that, it will open up Flex in a browser so that you can access that really easily. One other thing to mention, you'll notice right up here this exclamation point that's flashing at me. Every so often, if a patient is filling out a form, let's say they go on your website and they fill out new patient forms, but they aren't recognized as an actual patient. Let's say you just haven't created them in Open Dental yet. we don't have a patient to match that up to. So in that instance, what you would do here, and we'll actually let you know in that alert that comes through. So when you receive that alert, it'll let you know if it could not be matched, and you'll see that it's in unmatched documents. So in Flex, if I click unmatched documents here, I can select any forms that I currently have unmatched, select the patient that those forms belong to, and then simply tap this Move Form to Patient. Once that's done, your form has been moved over. There's nothing further that you'll have to do on that. For any sort of consent forms that you wanted to send out to a patient, simply tap Consents right up here at the top, and then select whichever consent form we wanted to send to them. There is a more automated way that we can approach this, and I'll show you guys that next. If you did want to add any sort of specific teeth to these consent forms, you can always click this Add Teeth button right here on the left-hand side. Select whichever teeth you wanted to add, and then choose our delivery method. Are we emailing that to the patient? Are we texting it to them? Or are they signing on one of your devices? I'm going to go ahead and text this so that you can see what the patient would see. So it lets me know that that consent has been sent. To see a copy of that text that we just sent to the patient, I'm actually going to pull up our communications log in OpenDental because everything will end up back here in the communications log. So every text, every email. So go ahead and pull this up. It will prompt them for the patient's date of birth. And then we will ask them, are they signing for themselves or for somebody else? I'll go ahead and select somebody else. We'll pull that information in down here at the bottom. All they have to do is sign either with, if they're doing this on a home computer or something like that, they'll sign with their mouse. If they're doing this on their cell phone, they would simply sign with their finger. Tap Submit. It's going to let us know that we have one more form to sign. That's for our fillings. You'll notice we're pulling in the teeth down here. We added tooth number 5. And I'll go ahead and submit that one as well. And it lets me know that that's the last one. So now if we check our images module for this patient, I have my consent forms going to miscellaneous. If you wanted that to go to a different folder, you can absolutely do that. And here is my signed consent form waiting for me. Any treatment plans that you wanted this patient to sign can be accessed right down here. These show up by having saved treatment plans in OpenDental. So you'll notice that I have 3 saved treatment plans right now in OpenDental. I can see those same 3 saved treatment plans in Flex here. So if we wanted to present some new treatment to a patient, all we would have to do is select our treatment, click Save TP. Whatever you have the treatment plan title as is what will show up in Flex here. So if we call this new treatment plan. Once that treatment plan is saved, I can then access that in Flex. So I see new treatment plan. And when I tap on that, I have 2 options here, consent and present. I'm going to start with present. I'll come back to consent in just a minute. That also ties into our consent forms. So I'm going to start here with present. And by default, it is going to take us to a summarized view of that treatment plan. So we are grouping treatment together by tooth number and by code with a total down here at the bottom. This code field is optional. If you didn't want code on there, you don't have to have it. The procedure name that we are pulling up can be a layman's term if you'd like it to be. And the way you can access those is actually in OpenDental. So if we go to lists and then procedure codes, if you double click on one of the procedure codes here, you'll see this field that says layman's term. Whatever you have in there is what we'll ultimately use in Flex. If there's nothing available for us, we will default back to the description for that procedure. So like I was saying, this is a summarized view of this treatment plan. There's no line item fees on there. We just have our total down here at the bottom. If you did want more detail than this, simply tap Itemize Treatment right up here at the top. We'll split this out into the different priorities that you have set, the different line item fees, subtotals for each different grouping of priorities. We still have that total down here at the bottom. And all of this data is pulling directly from OpenDental. So if we have a patient that has insurance, We'll pull all of that in, any write-offs, discounts, adjustments, whatever you have on there, insurance estimates, all of that gets pulled in directly from Open Dental. And as I scroll down, we have our different payment options available to us. These payment options can all be configured in your settings that I'll show you in the next video. The titles are customizable, the descriptions that show up here, the amounts that these default to, when they're available. So if this wasn't available to insurance patients, you only wanted this to be on cash patients and it's over $1,000, you can get very, very detailed with when we show these to a patient. And you can also change these on the fly. So this little plus on the left-hand side, we tap on that. This allows us to access all of our different payment options. And we can change each of these. So if you wanted to get rid of this financing option, we can simply hide that, or you can show more. You can have up to 5 on here at a time. I do recommend keeping it to 3 or less. And we can reduce our discount. We can bump up our payment plan. And let's say we'll give them 5 months. If you only wanted to, let's say you wanted to split this up between pay now and then pay at your next appointment. So if let's say you're doing like a crown prep and you wanted to take half now and then half when you seated or something like that, you can bump this down to 1 month. We'll automatically change this to show next appointment as opposed to a certain number of months. But if we select this option here, or the patient selects this option, we'll update to show their down payment due now, what their monthly payment is for 5 months. And if we head into the account module, it will create that payment plan for us automatically. If you tap Reset Options here in Flex, everything goes back to the way it was. So if the patient changes their mind as you're presenting this to them, you can just go back to square one. The discount option adds that discount right here under the treatment plan. We'll update the total here. And then if we check our saved treatment plan, the discount will have updated here as well. And then on the active treatment plan, those specific procedures will have a discount value in the discount column. When that treatment is completed, it will automatically add an adjustment into Open Dental in the account module. That is an Open Dental function, and the adjustment code that it uses is set in your Open Dental settings. Whatever you have the default adjustment type for discount set to in the treatment plan settings is what ends up being used for that. If we reset, again, that will go right back to the way it was. We already have a small discount on there, so we're just defaulting back to that. You don't have to show any discount options or any payment options if you didn't want to, though. We can hide all of them. They can simply sign with their finger, tap Submit. It lets us know we received that signed form. So now that treatment plan will have an X in the sign field letting us know it's been signed. And if I head into our Images module, I'll have a signed copy of that treatment plan waiting for me as a PDF. You do have some other options in here as well. So if you wanted to, let's say, add a guardian, we can simply tap the Add Guardian name right up here at the top. And this actually shows up automatically if the patient's under 18, just so that we can know who's signing for this patient. You can also do things like attach images here. So if we tap this Attach Images right up here at the top, you can select any sort of images that you have saved in Open Dental. It does have to be available to us in Open Dental in the Patient's Images module, but those can be embedded directly into our treatment plan here. You can also text or email this treatment plan directly to a patient by simply tapping the Text Email right up here at the top and then choosing the options that you wanted to send them. This would allow them to sign that treatment plan on their own device, either their cell phone or their home computer. The other option on treatment plans was the consent option, and this ties into our consent forms a little bit more broadly and the automation that you can employ here. So to circle back just a little bit on consent forms, one of the options that you guys have available to you is to link up consent forms to specific codes and categories of treatment. That way, when a patient actually comes in for an appointment, we can scan through that appointment and then check, do they need to sign for any treatment that they have pending. If that is true and they haven't signed anything yet, right up here at the top, consents will be highlighted with an exclamation point. If we tap on that, any consents that need to be signed for will automatically be pre-selected. The relevant teeth, surfaces, or quadrants will show up here. All of it's prepared for you, and you can actually go 30, 60, or 90 days out into the future. So if we selected, let's say 30 days up here, it's going to scan through any appointments coming up in the next 30 days and check for any treatment that needs to be signed for. And just have that pre-selected so that you can just send all of that out at once to that patient. We can also tie that into our consent forms. So if we were to tap this consent option here, this one is really designed as more of a day of type process. So the patient had already scheduled their appointment, they're coming in, they're ready to receive their treatment. This would allow you to display to the patient what treatment is planned that day, what the costs are associated with that if they haven't already paid for it, what that appointment total is. And when they sign with their finger down here and tap submit, I'll go ahead and skip the pay now option. It's going to let us know that there's 2 more forms to sign. So if we click continue, it's simply going to walk us through any consent forms based on the codes on that treatment plan. Again, we'll automatically pull in any relevant teeth, surfaces, or quadrants that are on that treatment plan. And we've got 1 more to sign. And it lets the patient know that that is the last form, and then they can return that tablet over to you. Clicking OK will take them right back to the login screen so that they're not accessing other patient information here. To send and receive any sort of text messages with the patient, just simply tap the communication button right up here at the top, and you'll have the option of either text messages or FlexBlast. FlexBlast we'll get into in just a minute. I'll go ahead and open up text messages here. We have sort of a cell phone style layout, so any recent conversations will show up on the list on the left here. We do support images, so if you had a patient texting you any pictures of their teeth or their insurance ID or something like that, you would be able to see that in here. To have a conversation with the patient, simply type in a message here, click send. That'll go right out to that patient. If you wanted to use a template, let's say you were typing out the same message over and over again, you can simply tap this text templates button and then select any sort of templates that you wanted here. You can add in new ones, you can delete them. Really simple, simply typing whatever message you wanted in here. Anytime you use these brackets, that gets replaced with patient-specific information. And to see all of your available options for those template words, right up here where you see this I, this will outline all of those for you. So we have name, pref name, L name, email, home phone, and wireless as options. So now I can simply tap on that template and it will fill in my message for me automatically. You can also send a message to a group of patients. And this is a little bit different than a group text message. It would simply go through each different patient that you have selected here and then send them a text message. If you have the same number listed multiple times like I do here, it would only send 1 text message to that number. We can see that those are duplicates. If you click this You Selected button, whatever message you end up typing in here and sending would go to each of those patients, again individually. So if a patient is sending you a message instead, I'll go ahead and send myself a message here. What will end up happening is you will get a pop-up in the bottom right-hand corner, and that is being generated by our desktop application. So if I click on that text message here, it's going to take us to the text message that just came through. So if we wanted to respond to that patient, simply type in a message, click send, and that'll go right out to our patient. The desktop application, completely optional, whether you wanted to use it or not. You can always access this same information through Flex directly in your browser, whichever is easier for you guys. This one kind of lives in the background. It lets you know anytime text messages come in. You can pull up patient information on the right-hand side. You can also chat with each other. So if you wanted to do any sort of inter-office communication or anything like that, you'd be able to do that in here. And the way you can actually get this application, if we go into our settings and click extras, right here you'll see this download. That will then load that onto your computer. It takes about 20 seconds to install that. Last couple of things to show you. In the top right hand corner where you see the Flex logo, we also see this little file icon. This update is available. If you simply tap the Flex logo and then yes, it will check if there's an update and then prompt you to run that. We do recommend that you keep Flex current just so that you have access to all the latest features that we offer. And if you ever needed any sort of help from our support team, in the bottom right hand corner, you'll see the support button. If you tap on that, this is our direct phone number. You can chat with us if that's easier. You can also email us at support@flexdental.co if you ever needed any sort of help. Our support hours are 8 a.m. Eastern Time to 7 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday.